Okay, this is part 2 of week 5, when God whispers your name, from the Max Lucado book, Experiencing the Heart of Jesus. And so we're looking at actually the text that we were given to read for this week, which is in Exodus. And Exodus 1 begins with Moses and his birth. And it's been 400 years that the Hebrews have been in Egypt, and they have been enslaved because there's been a new Pharaoh. He doesn't even know who Joseph is. He doesn't care. All he knows is these Hebrews, there's a bunch of them. They keep multiplying. And he's worried that, you know what, they may try to take over my kingdom. They may try to usurp my power. And so he decides that he wants all the Hebrew boys to be killed as they're born. And the midwives don't want to do this. And so they're like, well, the women are so healthy that they use the excuse they're having the babies before we even get there. And so God showed favor to those midwives. So then Pharaoh says, okay, then I'm going to send my people out, and we're going to find all these baby boys, and we're going to throw them in the Nile River. Just throw them in the water and drown them. And so this is the kind of atmosphere that Moses was born into. And when he was born, his mom hid him for 3 months. And then she says, I can't hide him any longer. And she prayed about it. She made a basket, put him in the bulrushes in the Nile River. And his sister watched, and he floated down to Pharaoh's area. And Pharaoh's daughter found him and pulled him out of the river and said, hey, Dad, I want to keep this one. I want to raise him as an Egyptian. And Dad said, okay. So Moses' sister said, well, do you need somebody to nurse the baby? And so Moses' mother, actually got to nurse him and care for him as a child. But he grew up in the palace. He knew he was a Hebrew, but he learned all the Egyptian ways, and he was very favored at the palace. But because he knew he was a Hebrew, and he saw the plight of his people, and he saw some of the Egyptians abusing a Hebrew, he killed the Egyptians, and someone saw him. So Moses then had to flee for his life, and he fled out into the desert and to Midian. And he became a shepherd. And again, I'm condensing all this, so if you want to read it, start reading in the book of Exodus. But he became a shepherd. He got married. He stayed in the desert for 40 years. And he thought, okay, well, this is my life now, and this is what I do. And one day there was a bush that was burning. Moses went to the bush, and he heard a voice, and the bush was burning, but it was not being consumed. And it was God, and he said, hey, Moses, take off your feet, for you're standing on holy ground. And Moses, I have a job for you. I want you to go get all those Hebrew people, and I want you to take them out of Egypt. And Moses says, how can I do this? And he began giving God excuses. And one of the excuses he gave was, hey, I stutter, and you want me to go talk to Pharaoh? Now, by this time, it was a new Pharaoh who did not know who Moses was. And Moses had stayed far away because, he was wanted for murder. So God says, I'm going to give you your brother Aaron, and Aaron is going to help you. So Moses went to Pharaoh. Again, I'm condensing a lot of things, but he went to Pharaoh and said, God said to let my people go. And God 10 different times sent plagues. And all these plagues, now remember, they're in the same locale. So the Egyptians and the Hebrews are living together. There's just the Hebrews are the slaves, and the Egyptians are the slave drivers. And these plagues came, and the first one was they turned the water into blood in the Nile, and so there was no water to drink. And then after the next one, we had frogs, we had lice, we had boils. All this happens to the Egyptians, but the Hebrews are fine. And each time it happens, Pharaoh goes, okay, just make this go away, and then I'll let the people go. And then he would change his mind. So after the flies, they had locusts. Is that right? Oh no! After that, they had livestock that died. And then after that, it was boils and hail and locusts. And then there was darkness, complete darkness. And then after that, there was what we call the death of the firstborn. And so God told the Hebrews, he goes, hey, put blood over the stoop of your door. He told them to eat unleavened bread, to eat standing up, to eat in a hurry, because Pharaoh, if they didn't do this, the death angel was going to pass over their house, and this would be their protection. So whoever didn't do this, they would lose their first child, and that's what happened to Pharaoh. So his heart was finally, he said, okay, y'all can leave. So Moses and all the people leave, and they're on their way, and they come to the Red Sea, and Pharaoh decided to chase them down. And they're like, now what? This way is the sea, and that way is the army coming after us. And God told Moses to use his staff and hold it out, and the sea parted, and the Hebrews walked across on dry land. And then as the army chased them into the sea, which was on dry land, the sea came back and engulfed them and drowned them all. And then Moses led the people, and Moses is taking them to the promised land, which wasn't very far away. However, because they were unfaithful and because God wanted to teach them how to be faithful, they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Now, that's a recap of Moses, and there's a lot more to the story, so if you wanted to read that, you will find that in the book of Exodus. So here's the thoughts that I have on that, okay? And I tell you what, I'm looking at the length of the video, so I'll put the thoughts on part 3, and we'll be done soon.